We finished with section 1 on a Diamond Sutra, and today we'll start with section 2 or chapter 2. Chapter 2, let's read the first paragraph. At the time, the elder Zupati, who was in the assembly, rose from his seat, uncovered his right shoulder, knelt upon his right knee, respectfully joined the palms of his hands, raising his hands with palm joint, and said to the Buddha, "Rare and world-honored one, how well the Tathagata protects and thinks of all bodhisattvas, how well he instructs all the bodhisattvas." So this is chapter 2. This is Zupati as a question. Sutra begins with someone asking a question. So at the time, the elder Zupati, who is Zupati? He is one of the Buddha's disciples. He is one of the 10 most prominent disciples of the Buddha. He excelled in his understanding of the doctrine of emptiness, sunyata. The doctrine of emptiness, we already have talked about it in detail. What is emptiness? Emptiness does not mean that there's nothing. This is empty, this is nothing. A box is empty, there's nothing inside. Is that emptiness? That's not what it means by emptiness. It's emptiness in terms of materiality, but the real meaning is not just the superficial meaning. We already have gone through that, the meaning of emptiness or sunyata. That is a very important doctrine, philosophy of the Buddha's teaching. No one can understand well the philosophy of the Buddha without understanding sunyata. Sunyata is the Sanskrit word for emptiness. So, Zupati, he excelled in the understanding of emptiness. So in the Chinese language, he is 解空第一. He is number one in explaining sunyata. So in the Prajnaparamita Sutra of the Mahayana, there's a whole series, a whole bibliography of Prajnaparamita Sutras in the Mahayana approach to the Buddha's teaching. It is generally Zupati who, because of his profound thought, profound insight, explains the meaning of sunyata. He was called elder at the time the elder Zupati asked the question, why was he called elder? He was called elder because he was advanced in years of being ordained, in the years of wearing the robe of the monk, in the years of becoming a monk, and venerated for his virtue. Remember in the first chapter, when the Buddha finished the meal, he put away his robe and bowl, he washed his feet, arranged his seat, and sat down. When the Buddha sat down, the whole assembly followed suit. And then, when a disciple asked a question in front of the Buddha, they demonstrated their sincerity in 5 ways. When you initiated a question, you become the interlocutor. You become the main person asking the question. There's always someone who asks a question, and then Buddha answered that question. And then there's so many other bodhisattvas ask that question too. So the sutra is questions and answers, questions and answers. It's not just about how you worship. It's about life, about living. So Zupati started to ask a question. When you ask a question, it's not like that. You just sit in there and casually ask any question. You have to show your veneration. There's a certain procedure in India you have to go through before you ask the question. To demonstrate your sincerity, you have to ask the question in 5 ways. If we read section 2, the first paragraph. He rose from his seat, Subhuti rose from his seat, uncovered his right shoulder, knelt upon his right knee, respectfully joined the palms of his hands together. Before you ask a question, that's what you should do. Now, number 1 is to rise from your seat. You can just ask a question from your seat. It's impolite to do that. You don't just sit in there, and usually in here, now we're so used to the casual way. You just ask questions, just raise your hand, and then when you ask, sometimes when people ask questions, the attitude is to challenge you. They don't want to get the insight of it. They don't want to get more information. They just want to challenge you. So they ask the question. And sometimes they lean back, and in some university or even schools, they have a cigarette in their hand, and then they ask that question. Or they lean back, or some of them even put their feet on the table. Have you been to those halls? I've been to those halls where students put one foot on the table and they ask the professor, "Hey, I got a question." And the professor has to answer it. That's not the way. Without politeness, without courtesy, without sincerity, how can you learn? How can you learn to humble yourself? So why did the disciple demonstrate the 5 ways before you ask a question? To humble yourself, to get rid of your ego. Because when you ask that question, you have that egoistic feeling that, hey, you're wrong, or hey, you got to answer my question. I'm paying for a tuition fee. You can't answer my question. I mean, in human behavior is an aggrandizement of self and ego. And because of this ego, we got into trouble. We are nurturing our ego every day in whatever we are doing. So you see a sutra, at the beginning of the sutra, when you ask the question, Subhuti rose from his seat, number 1. Number 2, put their clothes in order, that is to expose the right shoulder. Usually they have 2 shoulders covered. The robe covers the 2 shoulders, and when they want to show their veneration, they uncover, they bare one part of the shoulder. There's a second procedure, the second way. Bare one part of the shoulder. And also when they are working, when they're eating, when they're working, they also bare their shoulder. So when you ask a question, so you rise from your feet, rise from your seat, bare your shoulder, and then what? And then uncover his right shoulder, knelt upon his right knee. That's number 3. You have to kneel upon, with the right shoulder bare, touch the right knee to the ground, and then put their palms together, look up to the Buddha with veneration, with mindfulness, and then they ask that question. That's how you ask the question. So Subhuti started to ask a question, and he demonstrated his sincerity by doing these 5 ways. And what did he ask? Let's find out more. Rare and world honor one. How well the Tathagata protects and thinks of all bodhisattvas, how well he instructs all the bodhisattvas. Now, what's the meaning of rare and world honor one? Let's find out what is world honored one. The Buddha has 10 epithets or titles. The first one is Tathagata. Tathagata is a Sanskrit word interpreted as tata, that means thus, such as, suchness. Come, Tathagata means come, so it means thus come. This is the implication that the Buddha's achievement of enlightenment has come through a path of practice that other sentient beings can follow. Thus is the reality, the truth. Thus the truth will come when the Buddha comes to this world to introduce the truth to sentient beings to follow. Those are Tathagata, that means thus come. It's a Sanskrit word. So that's number one. There's the number one title, Tathagata. The second title, Arahat. Arahat is a Sanskrit word. Literally, it means one who deserves offering, because he has completely rid himself of all selfish tendencies. In other words, he has no ego. His ego is all disintegrated, selfless. The ego has gone. The ego is the problem ego. Some people say, I have an ego. Well, the ego is no good for you. It's because of that ego we got into trouble. That's self. How do we find out more about that ego that we have? Our ego. Not just by one sitting in here you find out your ego. Find out about your ego. What's the study of Buddhism? The first lesson in studying Buddhism is find out about yourself. Where does your ego come from? Let's resolve that problem. Find out more about it. So, the second is the Arahat. The second title is the Arahat. The third title, it's in the Sanskrit language, is Samyasambuddha. He's also called, the Buddha is also called Samyasambuddha, the Sanskrit word. What does that mean? Samya, that means sam, means correct. Samya, that means omniscient. Omniscient means knows everything. Also it means omnipresent, that means it's everywhere. Omnipotence, that means it's all powerful. The enlightenment, this person who is omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipotence. That means he knows all, he's power in all, and he's present in all. The Samya Sambuddha. That's the third title. The fourth title in the Sanskrit language is Vidya Karana Sampanna. It means perfect in wisdom and action. One who has consummated knowledge and practice. Consummated, that means completely fulfill knowledge and practice. So this is Samya Sambuddha. So when you are reading a sutra or any other books, the Buddha could be referred to as Samya Sambuddha. What are we trying to achieve? We're trying to achieve Samya Sambuddhi. We're trying to achieve enlightenment. Buddhi is enlightenment. Samya, that means correct, perfect, omnipotent, omnipresence, and omniscience. That means knowing all, present all, and power all. Once you achieve Samya Sambuddhi. So that's the fourth title. How about the fifth title? The fifth title is quite simple. In the Sanskrit language, it's called Sudgata. That means well done, well gone, well finished. It's a person who has skillfully finished his holy job, complete his job, leaving nothing behind. All finished. Gadde, remember? Gadde, gone. Zutgadde, that means well gone. Gadde, brasam gadde, buddhiswaha. That's, remember the Heart Sutra? Gadde, that means gone. Zutgadda, that means well, gone well. He's already gone to the shore of enlightenment. So, Zutgadde, that means well gone, that also means this person who has become enlightened, who has achieved Samya Sambuddhi, has already gone from this shore of confusion, life and death, life and rebirth, to that shore of enlightenment, that shore of Samya Sambuddhi. So that's well gone, the person who has well gone there, Sugata. And in India, somebody like to use that as the first name. Hey, how are you, Sugata? That means you already have gone, you leave nothing behind. You're a good worker. You've done your work, you finished, you consummated your work, and you left nothing behind for people to do. good worker never leave anything behind for others to do. He complete a good job. Sugata. So that's number 5. Number 6, in the Sanskrit language, is Lokavit. Lokavit means knower of the secular world. One who fully understands the nature and function of the world. He understands everything about the world. The knower of the world, Lokavit. That's the 6 epithets or titles of the Buddha. How about the 7th? The 7th, it's tamer, to control. In the same way that a coach driver expertly control a team of horses, the Buddha controlled the 3 karmic activities. The 3 karmic activities of words, thoughts, and deeds. He completely put the 3 karmic activities under control. What are these 3 karmic activities that poison us? Your action, your body, mouth, and mind. Physically, body, mouth, and mind. Body can do what? Body can do action. Mouth can do speech. Mind can do thought. Your action or your behavior, your speech, your thoughts polluted yourself. All your karmic activities, they are from these 3 sources. You watch them. Why are you meditating? Meditating is just relaxing myself and get good health and get good skin and good health and good body shape and maybe get away from depression and relaxation. Is that the purpose of meditation? No, you got it all wrong. That's not the purpose of meditation. The purpose of meditation is to know your mind, understand yourself, not just to better your body. Of course, the byproduct of it is bettering your body. Because when you're meditating, you're understanding yourself, you put your whole body into relaxation and solitude. You can think properly. You can act properly. You can think much better than when you are in action. Much better than when you are angry, you are jealous, you're greedy, you're arguing, you're yelling, you're shouting. Much better than that kind of situations. So you really have to find out more about meditation. Meditation is not just relaxation and yoga, no. That's just tip of the iceberg. If you learn meditation for the purpose of yoga, you lost it. You lost the most valuable. You just look at the tip of the iceberg, you haven't looked at the underneath it. The major portion of it is underneath, not the tip. So, tamer, that's the 7th title. What's the 8th title? The 8th title in the Sanskrit language is Sasta Deva Manusyanam. What is Deva? Deva means demigods, fairies, people, existing beings who enjoy themselves in heaven. Heavenly beings, Deva, heavenly beings. We are human beings, but there are other beings, they are heavenly beings. They are in heaven, they are much happier than us. But don't go to heaven for as an ultimate purpose, because they still have to die. They may live millions of years, they enjoy happiness, but when their karmic force is ripe, they still have to reincarnate. So the Buddha said, your destination is not heaven. You got to go beyond heaven. Heaven is not the way to go. Of course, heaven is 1,000,000 times better than the world, because this world is a world of suffering. Sasta Deva Manusyanam. Deva, it's heavenly being. Manusaya means humans. Sasta means teacher. So the Buddha is the teacher of heavenly beings and human beings. That's another name for the Buddha. Teacher of gods and men. So, do the Buddhists believe in God? Yes, they believe in God because they're heavenly beings, but they don't worship gods. They don't worship gods because they are still in the paths of reincarnation, the 6 paths of reincarnations. These Deva beings, Why did they go to heaven? They performed good deeds. When they were humans, when they performed the 10 good deeds all the time, then they have the karmic force to be reborn in heaven. What are these 10 good deeds? Remember these 10 good deeds? Always have to have them in mind. Not killing, not stealing, not lying, no sexual misconduct, and no frivolous speech, no cursing, no slandering, abstinence as much as possible from greediness, hatred, jealousy, you name those things. So these people, they are people like that who perform as much as possible. They're being bound by morality. They always go to morality standard. They have very high morality standard. When they die, they're reborn in heaven. They don't even have to go through the bardo stage, some of them. Normally, when people die, they go through the bardo stage. Within the 49 days, they still roam around. But for people who are destined to be born in heaven, when they die, they don't even go to the bardo stage. They be reborn in heaven because they've done good deeds. For people who've done bad deeds, unvirtuous deeds, when they die, they don't go through the bardo stage. They immediately go down to hell. All the other intermediate ones, when they die, they usually stay in the bardo stage for 49 days before they reincarnate. That's why within the 49 days, you can do something for them. And that is called release of soul from purgatory. You can do certain things to release depressed souls from purgatory. And there's ceremonies like that. And people like monks to do it for the people who passed away. The people who always come to the temple, oh, my certain person passed away, and can have a group of monks perform certain rituals, and these are rituals to release souls from purgatory. So, teacher of gods and men, that is the number 8 titles. Now how about the number 9 title? Number 9 title is just Buddha, B-U-D-D-H-A. Buddha, Bud means complete understanding. That means the person who achieved complete understanding of prajna. Buddha, it's Buddha a god? Buddha is not a god. God is still in material. You still look at things from the material perspective. All material is disintegrate. All birth will die. Only if you are beyond birth, there will be no death. Anything that is born will die. You're still in the birth and rebirth cycle. Buddha go beyond that already. Out of the materiality, out of form, out of sensation, perception, volition. We're still living within our consciousness. Our consciousness is characterized by sensation, perception, volitions, and the fallacious consciousness. We're still living in there. We've got to go beyond it. Arahats of the Theravada. Arahats have already eliminated the ego. They practice selfless, no self. And after a long series of practice, their ego is gone, disintegrated. When the ego is gone, there's no more mental defilements. You know mental defilements? Mental defilements that originates from egoistic feelings. Jealousy, hatred, violence, angry, greediness. You name them. All these mental defilements all come from the ego. Arhats already have eliminated them by practice of non-self contemplation. And then they are out from reincarnation. They got into nirvana. Bodhisattva and Buddhas go further. They even eliminate the notion of the Dharma. In other words, when you eliminate yourself, you have that method for the elimination of self. Even that method is empty, is void, is sunyata. Well, that you really have to learn more about it. Okay, let's get back to Buddha, the 9th title, and the 10th title is what? The 10th title is Bhagavat in Sanskrit language. B-H-A-G-A-V-A-T. Bhagavat. What does Bhagavat means? Bhagavat means world honor one, honored by the world. So let's get back to this. Subhuti said, rare and world honored one. That is addressing the Buddha with one of the 10 titles. Rare. How come he said rare? Rare in terms of what? Rare in terms of many ways. Rare means not happening all the time. Rare, not happening all the time. Why did he become so, why did he say rare? Because remember in the section 1, the Buddha went about arms round, begging from one door to another door for the food. Remember why? Remember we said bhikshus beg for food? Monks, they don't cook. They beg for food, and there's a lot of reason why begging. Begging not because of self-pitying or because of reliance on other people's food. There's a lot of meaning in begging. I already explained that. I'm not going to go through it again. So begging from door to door and arms round, eating, mindfully walking in the city, mindfully returning, mindfully eating and washing the bowl and putting the ropes back and sitting. All these things, the Buddha is practicing mindfulness. And Subhuti sensed that Buddha's mindfulness today is quite rare. This mindfulness seems to suggest to Subhuti that there's a very philosophical assembly. They're going to discuss something very philosophical. They discuss Prashna Paramita. So Subhuti because Subhuti is already an arhat, out of his power, he knows that this is a rare occasion for the Buddha to talk. So he said, rare, I feel something. I'm going to ask this question. I feel something. So rare in terms of the occasion at that time. Rare in terms of the Buddha's appearance. Because Buddha does not appear all the time in this world. Within the last 2,600 years, the history of humanity only has one historical Buddha, Sakyamuni Buddha. Before, there are 7 Buddhas of the world already. How many Buddhas are there? Billions of Buddhas, not just one Buddha. Anyone who obtained enlightenment, perfect samya sambuddhi, is a Buddha. To people, to beginners, it seems so unusual. There's only one God, right? How come there's so many Buddhas? You got to find more about it. Open your eyes. There's a door of treasure in the philosophy of Buddhism. If you always walk in front of the door and you don't go in, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what is inside. It contains one of the most resourceful literature of humanity, philosophical resource literature of humanity. Do you care to open the door or just walk in the door and say, bye-bye, I'm going to go on something else? Well, it's up to you. So, rare and well-honored ones. Next, how well the Tathagata protects and thinks of all bodhisattvas. So what are bodhisattvas? Bodhisattvas, buddhi means enlightenment. Sattva means sentient beings. Bodhisattva means all sentient beings who is in the practice of pursuing enlightenment. It's laboring the the realm of the Buddha, or some are neighboring, almost get there, they're still practicing. They're still on their way to practice. A bodhisattva is anyone who ceaselessly seeks unexcelled, perfect enlightenment and bliss and welfare of sentient beings. He's always render compassion to sentient beings. Sometimes when I first have access to Buddhist sutras, I always think, whenever I read sutras, I always said that a bodhisattva always render compassion to others and forgetting himself. And that doesn't apply. Doesn't apply in the North American society. We always think of ourselves first. But when I study more and more about it, when you always put other people's interests in front of you, you're not going to be disadvantaged by it. Because you always think of others, automatically your thinking perspective is widened. Then your wisdom level increases. People who have restricted egoistic feeling of only about himself, as time goes on, he's so restricted that he can only see himself. But whenever you see things, you always think, would it affect other people? You think in terms of others first, you automatically is benefiting yourself. You tried it out. So when you return home, for example, and you see something obstructing the lobby or something like that, and your first sight of it, oh, something is obstructing the pathway, and then say, oh, something was to kick on it, and he's going to stumble, and he's going to fall, and he's going to hurt himself. You think of other people. On the other hand, if you're selfish people, you think, is this my stuff? Who's getting my stuff on the pathway? Oh, it's not mine, I don't care. You see the different feelings? You see the different feelings? So when you always think in terms of others, being a bodhisattva, you widened your perspective. That was a story, and I don't know if I should go to story. If I go to story, I can never finish section 2, but maybe I should still mention the story. It's a true story. There was a couple. He had 2 children, and they went on holiday, and they left the 2 children behind for the babysitter to look after for a week, for 7 days. Babysitter, very reliable babysitter. And they went away to Mexico, and for 7 days, summer retreat. And then they came back. They were driving back. And as they were approaching their street, the street is quite long, but as they approached the middle of the street, they saw a house on fire. A house on fire. So John hurriedly got down, and there was a woman crying right at the door. The fire was not so bad. It started. It's going to glow. The flame is going to glow, and there was a woman terrified, running out, and help! Oh, my house is on fire! And she was trying to get some water and splash onto it. She was so excited that she forgot about 911. She was just so excited, nervous. So the man got down. And what's happening? Oh, there's a fire. My children is in the house. My children are in the house. And then the man wanted to go in to fetch the children for the lady. But the wife said, hey, John, watch it. The house is going to collapse anytime if it's burning too much. But John hurried and went in and grabbed 2 children by the hands and came out. And when she came out, put the children down, and the lady was hugging the children, and they were getting out from the flame. And then the lady suddenly said, oh, there were two more children inside the house. And the man thought, yes, when I was trying to fetch the children in a hurry, I heard cries of 2 other children. Yes, I should go in again. And the wife said, you're crazy, don't go in there. The house is going to collapse anytime. But John, being so bodhisattva, so compassionate, he wanted to help. He rushed in. he got the 2 children again and came out and saved 2 more children. And as she put the children back, the children look up at him and say, Dad, it's his children. The babysitter went, have some urgent things to do, shopping, and put his 2 children with that inside that house for the woman to look after. He was actually saving his 2 children. You understand? See what I mean? So if you're being selfish, you don't want to go and you don't even save your own 2 children. So you see the causality, the karmic activities, the karmic influence of these things. And John didn't know he was actually saving his 2 children. And his wife actually didn't want him to go back. His wife said that he was crazy. How crazy you are, risking your life for other people. See? So, how come a Bodhisattva is always thinking about helping others, putting the welfare of others in front of him? How come Buddha say that Bodhisattva always think in terms of others first, not of yourself? There's a meaning for it. So do you want to be a Bodhisattva? Only Bodhisattvas can become a Buddha. So he said, rare and well honored one, how well the Tathagata protects and thinks of all Bodhisattvas. That means how well the Buddha always protect Bodhisattvas. The Buddha always think of Bodhisattvas, and the Buddha always instructs Bodhisattvas, teach the Bodhisattvas. So Subhuti asked Buddha, the rare, well-honored one, how well the Buddha protects and thinks of Bodhisattva and instructs them. Next paragraph. Well-honored one, virtuous men and women develop the supreme enlightenment mind. How should their mind abide? How should they control their thoughts? Here's the question. That means, honored one, how should the Bodhisattva abide their minds? How should they control their thoughts? That's the question. That's the most important question. How to control your thought. How to abide your mind in the spiritual development. If you know how to do it, if you know how to abide your mind in peace, in that spiritual development continuously, and if you know how to control your wandering thoughts, you're right on your way. That's the first question. Very practical question. Nothing about Buddha, we all pay the respect and worship to you, and that's enough. Buddha, you will bless us. You give us the power. You give us everything. No, he didn't ask that. He asked, how do we practice? How can we be better? How do we understand ourselves? How do we abide our mind in peace so that we can help others also to abide the minds in peace? How do we control our mind so that we always can control our karmic activities? How can our behavior, our speech, our thoughts be holier and purified so that we are right on the path of spiritual development? It's about practice and development, not about blind faith, not about just faith and belief, no. Faith is only the first step. All the other steps depends on how you stride your steps forward. How should they continue in practice consistently without forgetting the ultimate purpose of perfect enlightenment? In the practice of Samya Sambuddhi, perfect enlightenment, in the practice of Samya Sambuddhi, one of the most important key is patience. Patience is very important in spiritual development. And I have experience with that. I can see that over the years, there's so many people come and go and come and go. They practice for 1 or 2 times and they think they got it and they never come again. They thought that one meditation is enough and they learn all and they go home and practice. That's not it. So patience is very important in spiritual development. My experience is that some people start off being very interested in the Buddhist teaching. It is new and different from what they think. In the first year, they are very conscientious. But as time goes on, they lose their patience, particularly if they have problems with their daily lives and they do not know how to apply the Buddhist teaching to resolve their problems. Then in the second year, their interest is diminishing, and finally, they totally forget about the Buddhist teaching. They don't have the patience. So it is significant that virtuous men and women learning and practicing development of Samya Sambuddhi to abide the mind in patience, hold it and continue with the same conscientiousness. It's very important. As I always give the example of drilling well for oil in Alberta. If you drill from one well to another well and try different wells without getting too deep, you won't get it. You concentrate in one or two. You get deeper and deeper and deeper. You take your patience, finally you get it. A rolling stone gathers no moss. Some people read from one book to another. They never can go beyond half a book, and they start another one. And some people meditate for 1 or 2 times, or even maybe a year, and they think, oh, just concentrating on the nose tip, oh, too simple. I know it. I can do it. A 3-year-old may be able to do it, but an 80-year-old may not get the enlightenment. It's simple, but it's complicated. And for section 2, for chapter 2, I only finished halfway. Maybe I'll stop at this point, but please remember the first question asked by Subhuti. How do the Bodhisattvas abide the mind in spiritual development? How do they abide the minds in peace? How to do it? How to do it? How to control their thoughts so that they are right on the path of development, spiritual development, on the path of Samya Sambuddhi. And the whole Diamond Sutra concerns about the mind. The whole Diamond Sutra concerns about understanding your own mind. Do you want to understand your own mind? You think you understand it? Some people say, it's my mind, it's in me. Of course, belongs to me. I understand my mind. As I always say, if you understand your mind, how come you become so mad? How come you curse? How come you get greedy? How come you do all these things? How come you lie? How come you kill? How come you commit sexual misconduct? If you can control your mind, if you know your mind, you shouldn't be doing all those wrong things. You should be perfect.